Three, two, one. I'll be reading to you from a script, something I dictated into my phone while I was making supper tonight. As we all do, we have thoughts that carry on inside our minds. They loop around in the morning, during our commuting times, during our showers or baths, whatever you like to do. Those moments when you zone out, and maybe you've had that and people wonder where you are when you zone out. I have those often. Today is November 27th, 2022. It's just nigh on 10 p.m. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to read to you from a script that I dictated into my phone tonight. Kind of a bit off the cuff, but it's the thoughts that have been going through my mind regarding the return to normal and what we think normal was and normal is versus what normal could be. So it goes like this. Actually, returning to normal would be more like not having to take this month's money to catch up on bills from 3 months ago. Actually, normal would be not having to wonder if I'll be able to afford the interesting foods that I would like this month. Actually, returning to normal has nothing to do with wearing a mask into a grocery store to protect myself from a disease I may or may not be carrying. Actually, returning to normal would not be putting $100 worth of fuel into my car every week to take me back and forth to work. Actually, returning to normal would mean a night full of sleep instead of worry. Actually, returning to normal would mean waking up and anticipating the day instead of trying to find a quiet way of destroying myself. Returning to normal tonight, for me, actually means wandering in my gardens at night and enjoying the silent beauty. Returning to normal is really hard and almost impossible, since I know that those that hold the keys to what we thought was normal are designing a future that has nothing to do with a return to what was. Rather, an emergence into, buzzword, a new normal, which benefits them the most. So let us not celebrate, for this is not a time of getting back to what we once did, or getting back to what we once were. Attending a sporting event, a concert, or flying off to new destinations. This may be what you used to do, and we can now do again. But the normal we are all so forgetful of is living without the weight of suspicion of our fellows. the cynicism and damnation of those who did not drink the proverbial Kool-Aid. And this goes both ways. A new normal is indeed what we are living in. One based upon fear, suspicion, condemnation, the drawing ever thicker of political lines and alliances. We measure more acutely than ever our friends' posts on social media, wondering more so now than ever if we actually like these people anymore. For maybe they chose a different path through these past few years than you did. And all along, the news, whatever your source, has been telling you to distrust them, to suspect them, and even report their non-compliances to authorities. We seem to have easily dismissed this level of psychological terrorism. For we've seen it in the past, in the primitive times, and we hate it from our modern perspectives. But you're in it right now. I ask you, and I know that you cannot provide a clear and honest answer right now, but how do you think this era of the 2020s will be perceived in, say, 10, 50, or 100 years from now? None of us can do anything more than project our current opinions upon our hypothesis. None of us really know what is going on. But we play along as if we know everything, because the television, the social media feeds tell us so. And whatever news source you follow, you will find support for your opinion. Never forget that for every thought and opinion you hold, there are those who hold thoughts and opinions which are diametrically opposed to yours. Each of you would call the other wrong. Each of you would summon a level of cynicism and vitriol that would shame the devil himself. But you hold on to it, you cling to it, and you signal to the world either by unsolicited display or by public condemnation exactly where you stand. Or you say nothing because you don't know where you stand. For those of us that don't know where we stand, we tend to pace. And you know what they say about those animals in captivity who tend to pace? How do we see ourselves through this? When so much of this stress and strain revolves around money. It revolves around our freedom to move and think and express as we wish. And lastly, our right to choose what we do and do not consume. Remember that all these things I just mentioned are inventions. They are made up things, money, passports, multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies. Indulge me and let us forget about all of that for a few moments. Close your eyes and imagine who you are, what you are, and who and what you think and feel you might be if things like money and basic living were of no issue to you. What would you be without your job to define you? What would you be if you were truly unfettered? Where would you be if you could choose to be without the concern of transportation to get there? This great reset we hear so much about has very little to do with money, the economy, or the artificial inflation of our cost of living. For those who have seen through the veil of this modern lifestyle based on buying and consuming, the Great Reset is something very different. It is a calling to our soul, or perhaps a calling from our soul if we have drifted so far off course. This, right now, wherever you are when you hear this, stop. This is the moment to reach inwards and explore the possibility of a redefinition of yourself. Do it with every bit of strength you have. Be silly. Imagine yourself as a seabird soaring far above the madding crowds on the beach below. See yourself as a singer in a small club, singing your songs, and you can conjure tears and laughter in just a few bars of your song. See yourself as the warrior who rejects injustice and shows your fellows just how good and strong a human can be. See yourself in the most perfect, unabashed, and unapologetic version of yourself. And know this, for it is truer than you may think. Nobody ever can take that away from you. Nobody ever can take that away from you. Think it, dream it, imagine it, create it, and finally become it. That perfect notion of yourself is who you truly are. And what vestments do you wear to cover and hide that person? It's likely your 9-to-5 persona, the social media pal who both seeks and gives thumbs up a few dozen times a week. Try something for me. Tomorrow, when you commute, whether you walk, bike, or whatever on your way to your job, ignore the pressures of who you feel you must be when you get to work. going to say that again. Ignore the pressures of who you feel you must be when you get to work. Ignore the pressures. And in that moment when you are alone, whether it's alone in your head or in a crowded subway car, be that self you imagined. Imagine that sense of personal perfection emanating through your vehicle and then to every other vehicle or person around you. You don't have to actually do anything. Just be. We all know how one person's frantic energy can affect a group. What about how one person's perfectly calm and wonderfully centered energy can affect a group? Instead of trying to block out everything, what if instead you try to influence everything? Now, imagine that energy, that vibration, seeping into those around you as a sacred osmosis of sorts. That feeling of confidence of someone who has found their power, not their power over others, but their true inner power. Imagine that person, imagine that energy seeping into those around you. Now imagine over the next few days or weeks or years, that power has seeped into everyone you know and everyone they know, and so on and so forth. And then ask yourself, how different would this world look if we all gained the confidence and fortitude to shift our energies to perfecting ourselves and not perhaps finding the perfect job? We would be living in a much different place. It takes no real investment from you other than your thoughts and energies, which are already charged with the daily routines necessary to earn money to buy things. Turn that charged, dense regret towards the bullshit routines into just indulging your imagination. And for those few moments where you don't have to be the at-work person, the at-school person, the on-the-job person, imagine taking that charge of resentment and emanating that as a force for change for those around you. Imagine how different the world would be if instead of that frantic energy that we know emanates through a crowd, if that calm, certain, purposeful, and confident energy could in turn permeate that crowd instead. Normal, as we call it, was a time of conditioned complacency. Normal, as we knew it, was a time of conditioned complacency. Please don't be complacent now. This is not a time for complacency. This is a time for you to not only own yourself, your environment, your energies, and to create something perfect around you. This is a time for you to project that ideal on the rest of the world. There is so much more that we can do. Normal was a time of conditioned complacency. And this is not a time to be complacent.